I have made the huge, uncharacteristic leap into using the Good and the Beautiful curriculum for both math and language arts. Why did I make the switch, and am I even a Charlotte Mason homeschooler anymore? Hi, I'm Jenny with Kids Learning for Life, and this switch is kind of a big deal for me. I blame Stacey for this whole switch up because I only really started looking into the Good and the Beautiful because of her. She was talking about how they have the free PDF downloads on their website, and she was kind of talking about some of the stuff that they have to offer. And so I just kind of randomly went on the website to check out what they were all about, because you can download a bunch of the curriculum for free on the website, so you can really see what it's all about in its entirety on the website. At first it felt really overwhelming. There are a lot of components, especially with the language arts curriculums. There's like phonics, spelling, grammar, there's even kind of fun stuff like art and geography included in language arts. So it really took me some time to really sit and like read the instructions, which is not my strong suit, to understand it. But once I did that, it really did start to make sense. So I decided to download the free PDFs and print out the pages that I wanted to use, just to give it a try, just to use something from it, because it really did seem kind of like exactly what we needed at the time. My third grader just really wasn't getting math like I had expected her to, and that we were using a curriculum called primary mathematics pretty consistently. We had switched to something briefly and then switched back to primary mathematics, and it just wasn't working the way I wanted it to. She just wasn't getting a lot of things. Plus, my first grader just wasn't as confident in reading and writing like as much as I would like her to be. So basically, I started them with some lessons in the Good and the Beautiful just from these free printouts, at a level that I thought would be a really good fit for them. Homeschooling had honestly started to become kind of a struggle, just with the previous curriculum we were using for everything. It was all just kind of piecemeal, and I don't think my kids were getting a lot out of it. But all of the sudden, when we started to use the Good and the Beautiful, like something just clicked, and they were actually enjoying school, or at least tolerating it. And also, I feel like they were finally like getting certain lessons that they hadn't really gotten before, if that makes sense. So, since the Good and the Beautiful was really working for us from those few lessons that I printed out, I feel like I became like a full-on homeschool print shop. I was printing out specific lessons and pages that we needed to print out. I was trying to be kind of picky about which pages I printed because I didn't want to use a ton of ink, because if you've ever looked at the Good and the Beautiful, there are entire pages that are just like like a painting, and I didn't want to use all the ink to print all that out, because I was kind of using a combination of the iPad or the laptop as like something for me to read, like to read the lesson, and then I was only trying to print out the pages that they really need to actually write on. This entire process got really complicated and really time intensive, but I kept plodding on with it because I felt like finally we were using something that was really working. All right, so fast forward about a month or two, Stacey and I are at the Great Homeschool Convention in Southern California, and the Good and the Beautiful has a massive, beautiful booth there. I mean, I was looking forward to meeting so many of the exhibitors there, but the Good and the Beautiful was definitely at the top of my list. This was my one opportunity to really see the curriculum in person and flip through it, because there's really nothing like that experience of actually seeing what the curriculum is all about and seeing how it feels in your hands. So when I did finally get a break to check out the curriculum in person and go see their booth, I was shocked at how thick the books were. It put things in perspective for me, because I was like, oh, there's no way I'm gonna be able to print that much material. Like, here's just an example. I just grabbed this. This is my daughter's level 2 math book. I mean, that's big. And I had this plus another math book plus language arts for both of them. And my oldest daughter actually has 2 workbooks for language arts. So that's just an example of how thick this curriculum is if you're trying to print it out yourself. Okay, the baby was starting to get fussy, so she's here in this video with me. Basically, when I saw how big the books were and just how nice they were too, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna print this out anymore. It's totally worth it just to buy this and give it a try just for 1 year. And that's kind of the stipulation my husband gave me. He's like, yeah, go ahead, buy it. It sounds like it's working, but try it for a whole year before you try to switch things up again. And I fully agree with that. So I bought it all, and I do not regret this decision at all. For my oldest daughter, who is now 9, I got her the language arts level 4 and math level 3, just because she kind of has some things that she needs to build a better foundation on, some of the skills. So I kind of leveled her back in math 3, and we do skip some of the lessons just because she has learned some of them, but not by far. She's learning so much from math 3. And then my second daughter, she is in math and language arts level 2 for both. And I do plan on going in depth in all of these levels that I have, maybe do some sort of flip through or something like that at some point, so stay tuned for that. And I want to clarify something here. I know The Good and the Beautiful is a huge curriculum that so many people know and use, but I had always been ignorant about it because it is a religious curriculum, and since I homeschool through a charter school, I'm not able to use funding on anything that even mentions the word God. So I had just like never looked into this because I was like, well, the charter school won't pay for it, so I would have to pay out of pocket for it. But this year something changed. We've been using basically all of our funding on in-person activities for my girls, like enrichment activities. So I've been paying out of pocket for curriculum for like a year now anyway. So it's not really that big of a change because to pay out of pocket for something like The Good and the Beautiful, because I've been paying out of pocket for curriculum anyway. Plus, I do want to say that I think The Good and the Beautiful, for how much material is there, I mean, you saw how thick that book was, it's really reasonably priced. And I know it kind of adds up when you have to buy it every year for all of your kids, but for what it is, I think it's actually a really good price. I've also kind of steered away from The Good and the Beautiful because I didn't feel like it was actually a Charlotte Mason curriculum, and I'm pretty passionate about the Charlotte Mason method. I don't really know what to say here because I've always really prided myself on being a Charlotte Mason homeschooler. I've always been on these videos talking about Ambleside Online and all that stuff, and I'm still using that. But I just feel like in this time in my life, I just need something that's open and go and really complete. And that is exactly what The Good and the Beautiful is. It kind of markets itself as kind of a Charlotte Mason-y type thing. And I do see components of that, but I wouldn't go into, like, if you're looking into The Good and the Beautiful, I wouldn't go into it thinking, okay, I'm gonna be a Charlotte Mason homeschooler with this curriculum. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, I do feel like the lessons are set up to be longer than what you would normally do in the Charlotte Mason method, so I do find myself breaking up lessons a lot. I also find that it's just really super structured and kind of spells things out a lot more than maybe the Charlotte Mason method would. It's like an actual curriculum. It's actual textbooks, workbooks, all that stuff, but like I said, that's kind of what I need at this point in my life with all these kids. My kids that are school-aged, we are homeschooling through a charter school. So the other component to all of this is that they really do need to be hitting certain academic standards. Otherwise, the school is going to try to step in and intervene and kind of help us, which isn't necessarily something I want. So it is helpful to me and my kids and my homeschool in general to actually be hitting academic standards. Even though this is something that I'm passionate about not really caring about, I really don't want the school intervening, and I felt like we were getting close to that point, especially with the lack of progress that my kids were showing in math. And since then, my kids have shown a ton of progress in math. It's like, oh, not a ton. I would say it's slow and steady since we've started The Good and the Beautiful a few months ago. So that's really all I can ask for, and that's definitely what I was looking for in a new curriculum. I do find that The Good and the Beautiful is pretty teacher intensive. So right now my kids are in like, levels 3 and 2 for math. And I do find myself kind of bouncing around or trying to school them at slightly different times, like offset them, which is not my ideal plan. But just because I'm short on time. I mean, I have the baby who is very needy sometimes. She's pretty mellow most of the time, But I also have a toddler, well, she's not really a toddler. I have like a 4-year-old, a preschooler, that also needs my attention sometimes. I try to get school done pretty quickly. Like I said, we do the Charlotte Mason method with our short lessons, but with The Good and the Beautiful, I feel like this is just the open and go curriculum that I need at this point in my life. But I will say that it looks like in levels 4 and up, so my oldest daughter is in level 4 language arts, it's pretty doable for her on her own independently. And I know that that's the case for math level 4 and up. It's more video based, which is also something I never thought I'd be interested in, but honestly, like just trying to get everything done in the day, sometimes that's just what you have to do. So that's something I'm looking forward to, is them aging up into the more independent work. While I feel like I've kind of sold out on this whole Charlotte Mason thing, I do feel like making the switch to the Good and the Beautiful is the right fit for our family at this time. I really do hope to stick with it kind of forever, just because I'm so tired of switching curriculums at this point. And from what I've seen, the curriculum seems to change enough every year and kind of adapt to what kids' skills are at that point that I don't feel like it'll get stale or boring or repetitive. I think we'll really be able to stick with it and it'll grow really well with my kids. As long as my kids are learning and I'm not pulling my hair out in frustration, then that's a win for me. I know I've talked a bit about homeschooling through a charter school, so if you want to hear more about that, I will link to my video all about my experience right over here. See you next time, and happy homeschooling.